Returning to Katahdin, an Appalachian Trail dream. Have you ever dreamt of hiking the AT? Bruce Matson did, so we're going to follow him every step of the way. Hello again, and welcome back to Returning to Katahdin, an Appalachian Trail dream, sponsored by our friends at Trailtopia. We're glad you popped in again to join Bruce and me as Bruce wraps up his gear selections. This is episode number 14, and at the time that this episode airs, there will be just 18 days before Bruce takes his first steps on the AT. It's getting very real, and as you've probably heard, if you've been with us for his preparations, Bruce is a planner. That said, you'll hear today that not everything is tied down and entirely ready to head out. For me, when this time came, I just wanted to be on my way. It wasn't easy to walk out of a happy home and to live like a bum for 6 months, and leaving behind your family takes a toll, both on them and on you. In those days leading up to the hike, I wanted to get going. I knew my Diane was nervous, and it felt to me that I was prolonging those nerves by just counting down the minutes. You made the decision to go, and now you want to execute that decision. You're going to hear today, however, that Bruce still has work stuff to tidy up, and that is taking his attention right now. But before we hear from the man himself, our sponsor would like to have a quick word. Do you remember those cold, wet evenings on the trail when you pitched up at a shelter and there was nothing you would have rather had than a beautiful, hot, home-cooked meal? Well, apart from actually going home, you could try out one of the delicious meals from Trailtopia. Why not dig into their spectacular jambalaya with its authentic Creole flavour? Or how about their beef stew, which is loaded with beef, potatoes, carrots, mushrooms, corn, green beans and green bell pepper in a fantastic beef gravy. Go on, try them. Trust me, you're going to love them. Trailtopia, the best of home cooking away from home. And we're back. So let's speak with Bruce once more. I should tell you, by the way, that our local community gets its grass mown on Fridays, and this was recorded on Friday. I thought I got away with it, but right near the end of our chat, you may hear a strange, low, deep noise. I tried to edit most of it out, but that is what it is. Now, here's Bruce. Okay, we're back on with Bruce again. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
I'm doing great. Steve, how are you doing?
No, I'm good. Getting excited, no doubt. 3 weeks to go, and we're recording this, and you're just literally 1 day, 3 weeks tomorrow you're going, so really you're really getting into it. We've already done the big three, the backpack, the tent and the sleeping gear, and then your winter supplement and food, and we're now down to the last few weeks and those last minute decisions on your gear, as well as those luxury items you want to take. Have you, knowing you probably have given it plenty of thought, and I'm sure you're happy with what you've got. What are those last minute gear decisions you're making, and what have you decided to take as a luxury item or as luxury items?
Yeah, we touched on this briefly. Believe it or not, I still have a list of things here. Got 3 weeks to go. I generally know what I'm going to do, and a couple decisions have been made. And a couple of decisions I'm literally still thinking about. I went for a Shakedown hike last weekend, and one of the guys I hiked with, we talked about the whole idea of having a roller, a stick to roll out your legs, and that's one thing that's on the list. So I still have a few things, and that's one of them. So we talk about that maybe. I think it's really instructive for the listeners. I had never heard anyone, and as you know, I've done a fair bit of preparation and reading for the last 3 or 4 years, and I had never heard of anyone taking care of their legs like that. And last year, you might be familiar with a YouTube guy named Early Riser. And, Early Riser.
I tried to get him on the show. He wouldn't come on.
Yeah, he was very popular. He had incredible discipline of posting every day, and he was a real advocate of rolling out your legs. He went pretty hard. He didn't do it in 100 days, but he did it in less than 120 days, if my recollection is correct.
Right. Yeah.
And he did talk about that, and it was like, hey, I'm surprised after all the stuff I've read that this hasn't come up. And
I think Jessica Mills does, Dixie. I think Dixie does. There's something in one of her videos where she talks about rolling the legs or doing something on the legs to make them feel better, and the feet as well. So did you feel that your legs were in need of that when you're on your Shakedown hike?
No, and I have, as we've talked a little bit, I did a fair bit of running for 8 or 9 years back after I turned 50, and a fair bit of distance running. And back then, when you go to expo shows and things, you get exposed to these things. And I do have something called the stick, which is just that type of device. And lots of runners told me it was very useful, and I did use it from time to time. I've never felt like I really knew how to sense the knots and the benefits in my legs when I was doing it. So other people talk about, oh, you can feel this and it hurts, but you roll this out, and I haven't been that aware of myself, I guess. So I'm still thinking about it because it makes an awful lot of sense. And I've actually talked to a couple of my medical friends, and there is a rolling stick that you can carry. It's only 5 ounces. So
it can't be that heavy either, can it?
Yeah, I mean, my stick probably weighs 2 pounds, and it's 30 inches long. But so this is still on my list, and I can see some real benefit to taking care of your legs really well, and certainly ER did that. And I actually developed a friendship with Bigfoot, who is on the YouTube a lot, and I think you're going to interview him.
Yeah, I am.
And I asked him about it, and he said that he actually, this was really smart too, he just uses his trekking poles. They don't roll like one of these rollers do, but he's right that you can adapt it for that use.
Cool,
so, interesting question, interesting issue. And related to that is another thing that's been on my should I take it list, and that is these long compression socks.
All right.
I've heard a number of people say that if you can sleep in them, particularly that these compression socks do a good job of getting your blood circulating in your lower legs in a way that will be more remedial, almost like the stick is. So I actually have those two things still on the should I do this, and I feel like I have deferred and delayed this decision too long. I've had a couple of business matters come up that I thought would go away, and they distracted me quite a bit.
That's what business does. It's meant to distract you.
It's adding a little bit of stress because these decisions I feel like I should have made by now. But it'll be okay. I'll figure it out, and it's good kind of talking to you about it because it's refocusing me on these few items.
Well, funny enough, Bruce, some people just pick up and go, and they think, I'm going to go on a hike 3 weeks' time. So you've got plenty of time to get these things. And it's just a case of deciding what you want to do and where you want to go. And funnily enough, we do have a question on stuff you're going to take. So I'm going to ask that question right now, if that's okay. This is from Orlando Ursula. And he or she, I'm not sure, there's a picture of a man and a woman in there, so I'm not entirely sure. And says, I may be showing my age here, but in my backpacking days, there were no iPads or even cell phones. So my questions are, what technology is Bruce taking along, and how do you keep everything charged? Do you ever get to the point that you don't want to use a device for fear of running out of batteries? And certainly true with me, I must admit. So that's Orlando's question.
Yeah, good question. It fits well into this last-minute decisions. So the technology I'm taking is an iPhone and an iPad. The iPad was one of those items that have been on the should I take it. I view it as a luxury item because it's a little heavy, but I like the idea of being able to read on it, and I like the idea that I can compose on it. I had promised, in a sense, my audience, whoever they are, that I would post the YouTube videos once in a while, and I've been finding that harder to figure out, and the iPad will help with the editing of that, and I've made some progress on that. So so the iPad, the iPhone, and on the list, last-minute decisions, it's not a decision of whether to or not, but I will take one of these battery backups so I can charge these items on the third or fourth day while you're out there. And I've used an Anchor battery charger, and I've used one for business for about the last year. But it's a pretty hefty one.
Yeah, that was always the problem.
Yeah. So that last minute decision is how large of a backup battery, a backup charger will I take, and I still haven't finished that. I still haven't finished that decision. But other than those things, I really don't have technology, unless the technology that's actually on the phone itself. Like one of the items on my last gear decisions was the Gut Hook app. I wasn't really deciding whether I'd take it or not. I just needed to go, acquire it, purchase it, and download it for my phone.
It's really awesome. Have you looked at it much?
And not much, but I have, and I've talked to people like you, and people have been very complimentary of the software and how it works, and considering how long you're out there, how far you're going, and it's a simple investment to make.
I tell you what it is though, Bruce. There's something about it when you start climbing up a hill, you never know how far up the hill you are. And you just take out your gut hooks, look at the blue dot, and that's how far up the hill you are. And you can see, you think, oh my God, I've got miles to go. But sometimes you see, and you're actually at the top, and it's a wonderful feeling. And it's probably the best thing, I think, of that app. I absolutely adore it. I think it was a great investment to have. So what about clothes and things like that?
Clothes, I think I am done with clothes, to the extent that I may have told you this privately, but I did acquire my rain kilt, and I will swap. I will swap that out when I get probably through Mount Rogers and get rid of the rain pants. So. But other than that and the compression socks, I think my clothes are very set.
I think actually, Bruce, when I'm coming up to see Bruce next week, and he's having a bit of a farewell, week after next rather, and I think you should wear the kilt to that. What do you reckon?
Okay, I would do that just for you. Probably not the Scottish way, but.
You should have your knife on your leg, shouldn't you, and all that sort of stuff. Is it? I don't know what they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should go for that. So what else is there that you've got that you think to yourself you've still got to make a decision over?
Let's see. So I think I did acquire the liner. I did acquire the micro spikes. Those are a couple of things we mentioned briefly. We talked about
liner's a good idea. Liner's a good idea.
Winter supplement.
Yeah.
I probably have miscellaneous things that I have already counted out because I'm looking at. I literally have a list I'm looking at. A couple things I'm still thinking about is a monocular.
Wow.
Smaller than a binocular.
Yeah.
You can get them that are just like 4 inches.
There's a clue in the title. There's a clue in the title: binocular and monocular.
Yeah, but a lot of the wildlife. There's probably more birds than anything out there, and I thought, I really would like to enjoy being able to hone in on the wildlife a little bit more. And I thought, I'm still thinking about the monocular, and I've picked out a couple, and I can go acquire it if I want to. On this whole thing about taking videos, I don't know if I need a tripod. One of these mini tripods to take some pictures. So that's still on the question mark list. And
I think actually a tripod's a really good thing because I know you've got the stick pick, and I believe you're going to get the attachment that allows you to put your iPhone in the stick pick. That attachment will give you, and may even come with it, give you a tripod. I think you'll find it does. Depends what you've ordered, because that's what I got. When I got it, the tripod came with it, so I could choose to set it up, and I did a couple of times. I set it up when I was outside my tent eating one morning, just talked to the camera, which is, well, pretty strange, I suppose, but you find yourself talking to the camera, and there's something about the stillness of the picture, and I looked at it, funnily enough, the other day, that is, really nice thing to see, that there's not all this moving about. So if you want a really good picture of a particular place, the tripod is a very valuable thing to have.
Yeah, it certainly adds some optionality into the type of shots you can take. And, of course, there's a space and a weight issue. So I'm going to go to the store and kind of look at it carefully and see if that's something I want to take.
Right.
Umbrella is still on my list.
All right.
I saw some YouTube videos and I saw some websites, and there's a few really experienced backpackers out there who swear by an umbrella, and I put it on the list, but and I've looked at different ones, but I'm actually thinking of deferring that and getting through, this first section with sort of, in a winter mode, and then I may consider an umbrella. But again, you asked what's on my I don't know about list, and that's the first time you think about an umbrella. That seems like a silly thing to bring on the trail, but there are a number of experienced hikers who really have encouraged me to either indirectly or directly to consider that. So that's still on my list.
What about first aid kit? What have you got in that?
Yeah, a good question. Because I've got a little supplement to answer to that. So I've had what you might call a first aid kit, for the last few years whenever I would go out.
All right.
And it's very minimalist first aid kit, though. It would have a couple of bandages, a little, what do they call it, the triple antibiotic ointment.
All right. I needed that a lot.
And maybe a little Pepto-Bismol pills, but it's a fairly minimal bandages with a little moleskin, light bandages, large Band-Aids, small Band-Aids. But I also, one of my good friends and college roommate who I used to do a lot of backpacking and canoeing with, I called him up the other day, and he's going to join me somewhere in Pennsylvania, Virginia. Nice. But I asked him about medications. Are there some prophylactic medications that would be helpful? He has led a mission trip to Guatemala over the years, and I've gone a number of times, and we would take a pill of a Cipro to sort of prophylactically because of the water there. And so he gave me some suggestions that I might, if my doctor will prescribe them, a few pills that would be useful for sort of the type of bacteria that you might run into in the water.
Sure.
And I can't remember something. Oh, and maybe one for like if your lower intestines were a wreck. So I'm going to supplement my because pills don't weigh very much, and a couple of those things might be useful.
Yeah. What now? Are you susceptible to many blisters? Then do you get them when you hike normally?
Do not. So you can use duct tape. I've got a kind of a simple piece of moleskin that can be used if I need to. But I've been very lucky, I guess. I like wearing liner socks with a sort of a mid-weight wool hiking sock, and I don't know if that's the best setup or not, but it's worked so well for me, I decided not to change.
Did you say you wore two layer socks or not? I can't recall. I know some people wear a very light sock and then their proper sock on top of that. Do you do that, or do you just wear the one?
Yes. No, that's what I mean. I'll wear a light polyester liner that'll help wick a little bit, and then I'll wear a mid-weight wool sock. And I do think that the liner, some of that abrasion that you get otherwise is benefited by having two socks.
Right. Did that impact your shoe size? Because when I bought mine, I was told I was size 13 shoes and I should get size 14 boots, which I didn't buy into at all. But I can tell you, my feet turned into a slab of meat. They really do smash your feet up. And my feet, I grew nearly a full size when I was away. So it's worth thinking about that. What size shoe did you get compared to your regular shoe?
Well, yeah, I ended up with almost a size and a half larger in my hiking shoes. Right. And it was mostly, I actually did go and bring the very socks that I was going to use and tried shoes on and walked around. And I have found that trying different shoes are just very different than my street shoe size. And you just really have to go try it on, because it's right now I wear like an 11 in street shoes, and I have two different hiking shoes, and one's a 12 and one's a 13. It makes no sense, but those are the ones with those manufacturers that fit the best.
Well, one of the things, I don't remember whether you listened to it, we had a guy called John Von Hoff, the foot doctor, at one of our shows, and he said once, very important is to make sure before you go on a hike is to cut your toenails down as low as you can, because there's as much as you can get them smooth with, to as it were, match the top of your toes, then you'll save yourself a lot of bother with your feet if you cut those toenails down as far as possible. So you might want to think about that.
Will do. Makes a lot of sense. It certainly
Yeah, it
makes
does.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does to me as well. So I'm trying to think what else was in my pack that I took. I can't recall too many other things. What did you say you're not taking a back cover, or is that part of the? Were you taking a packer? I can't recall.
I do have a pack cover. Osprey has a pack cover that fits my pack, and it's a there are minimalists who would say that's wasteful, but it doesn't weigh very much, maybe 4 ounces, and to keep things extra super dry. And I have basically a trash bag liner inside as well. I love keeping everything dry, so I will have both an inside liner and a pack cover.
Okay. Have you been reading up on current trail conditions at all? Do you know what it's going to be like out there? I know it's 3 weeks ahead. It can change a lot, but what have you been seeing on the trail so far? And because I know you researched this stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I have failed you on that. I have not checked a single trail condition. However, as you know, one of your listeners sent some photographs recently my benefit to say, hey, there's plenty of ice in the Smokies right now. Or
wasn't that amazing?
North of the Smokies.
Wasn't that amazing? Some of those pictures.
But part of me says it doesn't matter what the trail conditions are. I'm going, and I should have what I need in my pack, and we'll deal with it when it comes. So you are right. It's not like me not to be reading up and trying to figure out how the first 30 miles are going to go. And I think, again, I've just been a little busy trying to get all these things done before I leave.
Yeah, I'm sure the closer you get to it, the more it's going to be more and more on your mind. And you did the Shakedown hike, and I actually called you. I think you were actually hiking when I called you last week. What was that like? How far did you go?
Let's see. I did 2. One was 12 and one was 10.
Okay.
It went well. One of them was a rainy day, and one was a beautiful day. Mm. My friends who go with me sometimes, they're fair weather hikers, but I would find that it's really beneficial to go out in the rain and try, what gear. Everyone says, you just generate so much heat. It's hard to wear a rain jacket and not overheat. And so I figure, it's good to go out and do that and sense the layers that you need and how you react at different temperatures. So I would say the big thing, that was one part of the Shakedown that was just another lesson. But the big one is just the care that I think I need to walk on wet rocks and wet leaves.
Oh, man, yes, definitely.
Is significant. And the pace that I was moving at was slower than I anticipated because of the concern I had about slipping. Because I literally had this thought, as I started the hike, I said, leave it to me to fall and hurt something and cancel the whole trip. So I've been very, very careful on these hikes in terms of when it's wet. And that's certainly lesson learned.
How have they felt, though? Because you've gone out there, you're thinking to yourself, this is a practice for what I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks for possibly 4, 5, 6 months. How have they felt? Have they felt like they're practice for the big thing or not? Or is this just you're just trying something out and trying your weight out, and does it just feel good?
Well, it does feel like it's a little bit of practice for the real thing, and I love going out there. I love doing it. I think because, one, I like to be out there. But when I go out there, it reminds me of the journey that's very near. And I'm trying to be conscious of how much I'm enjoying being out there, whether it's raining or not, because I think I've mentioned this before. I'm always concerned about, have I fallen in love with the dream and the idea, but I haven't been realistic about how I'm going to feel. And so far, there's never a time when I'm out there on a Shakedown hike where I'm second-guessing the decision.
That's cool. That's good that you feel that way as well.
Yeah, it's been good.
I'm sure a lot of people, if they practice beforehand, they go out there and thinking, I'm not sure I can do this every day for 150 days. There's a lot of it. That's it becomes almost your job. You get up every day, you pack up, you eat, and you head out. I mean, that's what you do. And then you stop and then you're exhausted. That's why reading your tent at night, I rarely read for very long. I read as long as I could, but I'd fall asleep because I was so tired after a day. So, that's what it's like. And did the hike give you any any sort of, did you second guess yourself on any of your selections of gear so far?
No. I actually commented to my friend who was with me that my feet felt great, and the rain gear seemed to be the right choice. And that part has been really encouraging and reinforcing.
Did you find yourself slipping the jacket on and off though? Because you do heat up, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was trying to figure out, well, and it was on and off. The rain was on and off, and and then it was like, okay, it's raining hard enough, but it's not cold enough. So you're hiking with the whole front of the jacket wide open to release the heat, but you're using the rest of the jacket to stay relatively dry. So yeah, it's just a confirmation of what you've always said, and I've heard other people say about how hard it is when it's and this was a good example because this was a 39-degree day, 40-degree day, not terribly cold, and even at that temperature, and this hike was not particularly steep.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any weight on my back, and I still was generating plenty of heat at 40 degrees. That just with one shirt on and the rain jacket, I was warm.
Did you have your full pack with you when you went on this hike or not, including your tent, just to try it out? I say you haven't actually hiked with a full pack yet.
I have done that.
All right.
Oh no, many times I have. Right. No, I have. I have done that many times. This was just a day pack, day hike, not with the full pack, but I have. Done a number of 1 and 2 night overnights to practice with the full kit, so to speak.
Yeah, so your only real luxury then really is the iPad, because the iPhone's necessary. I think the liner is necessary as well, personally. So the iPad is really the thing that's just going to make your job a little bit, or the journey a little bit more comfortable for you, which is great. You need something. I think you definitely need something, and if the iPad's it, I think you'll enjoy it. And I still have not found that iPad case, so you may have to still get yourself one. But I do not. It's driving me crazy. I cannot find it, but it is what it is. But look, I think you're now ready to go. Have you actually weighed your pack recently? Do you know what it's weighing these days?
Well, I haven't actually weighed the pack, but we talked about that gear grams.
Yeah.
And I have recently done a blog post to go with the Winter Supplement podcast.
Yeah.
And I posted the gear grams on that blog post, and I have one almost ready to go about the rest of the equipment, and that'll be available to people too. But to answer your question, I haven't weighed it recently, but I've weighed it by weighing the components and putting them on those lists on gear grams. So I'm hoping that they're all accurate and I've covered everything. So
very cool. All right, mate. Well, look, you're getting there. You're nearly on the way, aren't you?
Absolutely.
We started talking about this a long time ago, and you've now just got 3 weeks to go. It is just extraordinary to me.
Yeah, it is exciting, very exciting, and little by little, people know it's coming. There's some send-off parties for me, and it becomes very real. And literally, you start seeing people, like if you're in another city working on something, you realize I won't see you again until I finish the hike. Probably.
That's right.
So there's some of those goodbyes already. So it's feeling very real. And
I'm sure.
Not the least bit. Don't regret it. I'm eager to get there.
Great. All right, mate. Well, look, I'm looking forward to that. Certainly looking forward to that first interview at the top of Springer, and I will catch up with you next week.
All right. Very good, Steve. Thanks as always. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye. He sounded a little more contemplative today, as if the realisation of his imminent departure was getting to him. Or maybe it was the stress of clearing up work stuff. Whatever it was, I did get his commitment to wear his kilt at his send-off party in a couple of weeks' time. And pictures, I can guarantee you, will follow. I like the fact that his shakedown hikes of the past few days have brought home to him the necessity of careful foot placement on those slick rocks and, to my mind, even more dangerous routes. An easy rule of thumb is not to trust chancing it on a rock or a route. Slow down when you hit too many of either of these deceptive devils. They'll end your hike in a second. I fell over 45 times on the trail and I had countless near misses. You really need to be careful out there. Thanks to Orlando Isula for the question. Please send me your address and Trailtopia will be sending a couple of goodies your way. With Bruce shortly to be on his way, we'd love to hear from you all with more questions about his hike and anything you'd like to ask him on the trail. Those Trailtopia meals will keep coming as long as you keep asking the questions. I haven't read out any reviews for the past 2 weeks, so I have 2 to catch up with. We must be doing something right because, apart from one person who didn't seem to like it, we have 23 5-star reviews, and that ain't nothing. Matt and Rhonda call it another great show. They go on to say, please keep up the great work and thanks for supporting the AT. I certainly will, Matt and Rhonda. Cardinal 4404 says that it is a very interesting podcast for those planning to hike all or part of the AT. Glad you think so, Cardinal 4404. Next week, we're honoured to have Suzanne Dixon on the show. Suzanne is the President and CEO of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, responsible for the overall strategic direction and management of the ATC. She'll be filling us in on the latest news from the ATC and what Bruce's fundraising will do for the organisation and how it will help achieve their goals. Don't forget, Bruce is now keeping a fairly regular blog at returningtokatahdin.com and rtkchallenge.com. Either of those will get you to his new site. Also, of course, our sponsors, Trailtopia. We'll love to see you over at their site, which is at trailtopia.com. Bruce and I will see you next week.